Today we're talking about 6.2, the percent proportion. There's a formula that I want you guys to go ahead and write down. This is what we're going to use for the percent proportion. So if you would, go ahead and put this into that cloud that's up there on your notes. And I want you to write is over of equals P over 100. All right, so if you remember, we've talked about proportions before. Those proportions are basically two fractions or two ratios that are set equal to each other. So if you notice here, I've got is over of, that's one fraction, that is set equal to P over 100. The is, the of, and the P, they stand for things. The is, as you can see here, it says it's what, guys? The number that follows the word is, okay? And that's the part of something. Of is the number that follows the word of, and that's the whole thing. What does the P stand for? Percent. Okay, so we're going to use this as we do our lesson today. Write and solve a proportion to answer the question. So the first question that it's asking me here is, what percent of 15 is 12? What we're going to do each time is we're always going to start with our formula. What is that little formula you just wrote into the cloud? Is over of equals P over 100. Now, there's a way to simply break up this question that it's asked us here into three simple parts. It's going to be the is, the of, and the P. So in order to do that, I want you to go ahead and underline this. What percent? Do you think when it asks me what percent, do you think that stands for the is, the of, or the P? The P for percent, okay? What about this right here? I want you to circle this with your red pen. Of 15. What do you think that is? The is, the of, or the P? Of, because 15 is following of, and then the last one is 12. That's my is, okay? So now that I've broken up my question into three separate parts, I'm going to go ahead and plug these things into my formula. It says is over of. What was my is according to the original problem? 12. So let's go ahead and put, instead of is over of, I'm going to put 12 over, and what's my of? 15. It is 15. Equals P. If you notice up here, it says what percent. Do I know my percent yet? No. So I'm just going to keep it as a P because that's what we're going to be solving for, over 100. Now, how do you think that I'm going to solve this? Divide. I'm going to go ahead and cross multiply. Okay, so drop that equal sign down, and I'm going to be doing 12 times 100 equals 15 times P. Now this looks just like a normal cross products kind of problem that we would have before. What's 12 times 100, guys? 1200. Okay, 1200 or 1200 equals 15P. How do I get P by itself? Divide by 15 on both sides. Guys, what's 1200 divided by 15? 80. Now here's the question. If I go back to my original problem up here, it says, what percent of 15 is 12? So what's my answer? 80%. So make sure you put that percent there because it's asking you what percent it is. So the final answer is 80%. Listen, we're going to go ahead and do a few more examples that are very similar to this, and hopefully it will make really good sense at the end of this lesson as to how to do these kind of problems. So problem B says 24 is what percent of 20? Every single time we're going to go ahead and break up that question into three different parts. It's going to be my P, my of, and my is. What is the first thing that I should underline? Working from left to right. 24 is. Everybody underline 24 is. What do you think that is? Is that my is, my of, or my P? It's my is. What's the next thing I should circle? What percent? What is that? My is, my of, or my P? That's my P for percent. And the final thing I should underline is of 20, and that's going to be my of. Okay? Every single time I want us to start with the original proportion. What's the original proportion that we wrote in the cloud? Is over of equals P over 100. Everybody write it down. Is over of equals P over 100. And now all we're going to do is we're going to plug in what information we already know. Hunter, do I know my is?
Your is 24.
That is correct. It's 24. Do I know my of?
Your of is 20.
Very good. Do I know my P?
Your P, no.
Okay, we don't know what the percent is, but notice always the percent is going to be out of 100, okay? So now, can I do mental math on this problem? Okay, mental math has a missing link in between. Look, I'm trying to find my p, which means I have to work with what I know to get to my p. So I've got to see what I know. How do I get from a 20 over to a 100? Multiply by 5. So my missing link is times 5. What I do on the bottom, I've also got to do on the top. So you can see here, 20 times 5 equals 100. 24 times 5 equals
120.
Okay, 120. Now if I go back to my original problem up here, it says 24 is what percent of 20? So my answer is 120% because it was asking you what percent it was. The more we practice, the easier these are going to get. So we're going to do a few more practice problems. What number is 80% of 60? The questions are worded slightly different, but we're still going to break it up into 3 parts. My is, my of, and my p. What's the first thing that I should underline on this problem? What number is? Because remember, each one has to have either an is, an of, or a p. That's my is. What's the next part? 80%. I'm just going to do 80%. Is that my is, my of, or my p?
Is. It's your P.
That's my p. Here, this should be the easiest one. Do you see that percent sign right there? Yeah. That tells me it's percent. P stands for percent. The final thing that I should underline is of 60, and that's going to be my of. Okay, who would like to do this one for me? Let me have Janet start us off with the original proportion. What will it be? Very good. Do we know what our is?
No.
We don't, so we're just going to go ahead and put X. Janet, do I know my of?
Yes, it's 60.
It is 60. Do I know my P?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, very good. 80 over 100. Does everybody understand 80 over 100 means 80%? Okay, so that's why here I'm not going to go ahead and stick a percent sign here because 80 over 100 means 80%. All right? Now, Janet, how do I keep going?
You could either do mental math.
We're going to go ahead and do cross products. Okay, drop down that equal sign directly underneath it. And what's on the left-hand side, Janet?
60 times 80.
All right, she wants to do a 60 times 80. And on the right side? 100x. Thank you for putting the number in front of our variable. Janet, what's 60 times 80? 4,800 equals 100x. What should I do next? Very good. We're going to go ahead and divide both sides by 100. And what do you get?
48.
Okay. Is this 48%?
No.
No. When I go back up here, look at the question. It says, what number is 80% of 60? So you want your answer to come out as a number. And that is the correct answer. X equals 48. 48 is my number. I want you guys to try the next one on your own. All right, so we're going to go ahead and see what it is that you guys got. Harmony, help me out with how do I separate the 3 different parts? 10% of 40.5 is what number?
You like how you underline?
Mm-hmm.
I underlined 10%.
All right, we got 10%.
And I circle of 40.5.
Very good.
And then I underline is what number.
Very good. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start off with our proportion. Guys, tell me what it is.
Is over of equals P.
Everyone together, what is it? Is over of equals P over 100. All right, Harmony, keep going.
Then I set up my 0.5 equals 10 over 100.
Very good. X over 40.5 equals 10 over 100. And which method did you use?
Cross product.
Okay. And what's your work look like next?
X times 100 equals 40.5 times 10.
Very good. What is 40.5 times 10?
405.
405. And now what do I do?
We divide by 100 to get X outside.
Good job. We want to get x by itself, so we divide by 100 on both sides. And what's your answer? 4.05. Did anyone else get that same answer as her? Excellent work. Thank you, Harmony, for helping me with that. Are there any questions about what she just did? All right, let's keep going then. We're going to go on to the next one. If I could have Taylor go ahead and help me, how should I underline these? 45% of what number is 9?
Underline 45%.
Good job.
And then circle of what number.
Very good.
And then underline is 9.
Good job. All right, so everybody, let's go ahead and say it together. What is my original proportion we're going to start with? Is over of equals P over 100. Great job. Let me have Alexis go ahead and plug it in for me. What should I do? All right, very good. We're going to do 9 over x equals. Okay, very good. Now this is one of those ones where we could do mental math. I'm trying to find the x, so I've got to work backwards to figure out how to get from 100 to an x. In order to do that, I've got to figure out how to get from a 45 to a 9. What should I do to get from a 45 to a 9 using mental math? Divide by 5, okay? Because it's going from something bigger to something smaller, I've got to divide. So I'm dividing by 5 on top and dividing by 5 on the bottom. Once again, this just means 45 divided by 5 equals 9. 100 divided by 5 equals what, class? 20. So my answer, x equals 20. Mental math helps us to get that answer pretty quick, okay? You also could have done cross products. Cross products will work every single time. Mental math can just be faster. All right? I want you guys to try problem F with your partner. All right, as I walked around, I saw a lot of great work. Okay, we've got 30 is 150% of what number? Start with the formula. What's the original formula, guys?
Is over of equals P over 100.
Everybody together? Is over of equals P over 100. Okay, so my 30 is. My of, we don't know yet. The percent is 150% out of 100. Can I do mental math for this one?
No. Yes, you can.
You can. There is a missing link here. Look, I'm trying to get my x, so I have to figure out how to get there from what I know. This means I am working backwards once again. A lot of you are able to figure out 5 is the missing link, but you've got to figure out whether I'm multiplying or dividing to get there. How do I get from 150 all the way down to a 30? You have to divide by 5. When it's getting smaller, you're dividing, okay? So a lot of you did multiply by 5 and got the wrong answer. 150 divided by 5 equals 30. 100 divided by 5 equals 20. So the correct answer here, if I go back up here, it says 30 is 150% of what number? The number is 20. Okay, 2 thumbs up if you got that answer. Very good job. Let's go on to the next one. This is a modeling real life problem here. An Arctic woolly bear caterpillar lives for 7 years and spends 90% of its life frozen. Can you imagine? Is that more or less than half of its life? That's more. 90% is more than half of its life it lives in a frozen stage, okay? I am wondering approximately how many years of its life is the Arctic woolly bear frozen out of those 7 years, okay? So let's start with our formula that we've done the whole day today. What's the formula? Is over of equals P over 100. Now, one of these two here, if you look at your original notes, you can see one of them stands for part and one of them stands for a whole. Which one is the part? The is or the of?
Is.
Look at your notes on the front of your notes.
Is.
It's the is, okay? So I want us to write here next to this. This symbolizes that's the part, and this is the whole. So now, just like we've done for the previous problems, we're going to kind of see what we can plug in. We're doing the part of its life over the whole of its life. Which one do I know so far from the information it gave me? Do I know the part of the life or do I know its whole life? I know the whole life. How long did this little guy live?
7 years.
7 years. So we don't know what part he was frozen yet, but I know the whole life was 7 years. Do I know what my percentage is yet? Yeah, what's it say? 90%, which means 90 over 100. Now all you're going to do is just solve for x, and that's going to tell us how long of its life it lived frozen. So on the left side, what am I going to have, guys?
100x
100x
equals 90 times 7.
equals 90 times 7. Guys, what is 90 times 7?
630.
630. Now my goal is always to get x by itself. What do I have to do to get x alone? Divide by 100 on both sides. Now when you get this answer, I want you to remember, modeling real life, you always want to have some kind of units attached. The question has had, about how many years of its life is the Arctic woolly bear frozen? What's the answer, guys? 6.3 years of its life it lives frozen. Is that a sad life or what? I am thankful that I'm not frozen for most of my life. Okay, we've got 2 think, pair, share problems. I want you to go ahead and do this first one with your partner. All right, as I walked around, I saw lots of good answers. First up, what percent of 5 is 3? Remember, every time you want to start with is over of equals p over 100. Guys, what's my is?
It is 3.
3. What's my of?
5.
5 equals p over 100. Can I do mental math on this one?
Yes.
Yes, if I'm trying to find my p, I'm working that way. How do I get from a 5 to a 20 or 100? Times 20. All right, so if 5 times 20 is 100, 3 times 20 is... Now here's the answer, guys. What percent of 5 is 3? What's the answer? 60%. Please make sure you've got that percent sign there. Okay, how many of you got that correct? All right, let's go to the next one. Just the boys, help me out with the final 3 here. What should I underline first? 50 is 35% of what number? Boys? 50 is. What's the next one?
35%.
And the last one? Very good. All right, every time we start off with our formula, which was what, guys? Guys, what is the formula? Is over of equals... All right, what's my is?
50.
Nehemiah, what's my of? We don't know it, so we're going to put an X. Nikki, what's my P?
Nikki got it wrong.
Okay, 35% means 35 over 100. All right, guys, is there a clear missing link for me to do mental math to get from a 35 to a 50? No, there's really not. So what should I do? All right, let's go ahead and do cross products. All right, Haley, what should I write? Okay, 35x equals 50 times 100. Girls, what's 50 times 100?
5,000.
5,000. Brody, how do I get x by itself?
You gotta divide 35.
Divide by 35 on both sides. Now listen, the answer that it's going to give us is going to be kind of a big number. All right?
I knew I got it right.
What'd we get?
142.85.
Okay, so listen. This, I want you to go ahead and round it to the nearest tenths place for me. Okay, guys, which number in that right there is my tenths place? The 8. Okay, so this 8 is asking the neighbor next to him, are you 5 or bigger? What's that neighbor say?
Yeah.
Yes. So when I round this to the nearest tenth, what do I get?
You get zeros. 900.
No, not 900.
142.9.
142.9. When you come to a problem like this, I want you to always round it to the nearest tenths place for me. Tonight's homework for 6.2 is going to be on page 245. So I want you guys to go ahead and pull that out, and I'm going to give you a few minutes to work on that in class.